For this project, you're going to be making an imaginary selfie postcard. So you're going to choose either an area that really exists that you'd like to go to, make this more of a realistic type postcard, or maybe it's kind of the anti-realistic where it's not a place that you normally want to go to, like my example here, where it's more of a joke. Or it could be even a place that is really hard to get to, like maybe going to Mars, something like that. There are a few elements that you're going to need to begin to create this. First of which is a background layer that you'll find online. Make sure that you've got a high resolution version that you find. Then you'll be taking a picture using the studio lights. You'll be grouped up, so you'll have somebody take the picture for you, and you'll just want to be posed in an interesting way that matches the way that you want to design your postcard. So I'm looking off to the side here, contemplating how this place really brings me joy. The first step is to create a new document that's set up to be the exact size that is used for postcards. So you'll have to click on the International Paper setting, and then A6 is the standard size. So we'll hit OK there. Now postcards are normally sideways, so I'm going to flip that by going Image, Rotation, 90 degrees. Doesn't matter if it's clockwise or the other one, counterclockwise. Then what we're going to do is pull in the image that we have as a background. Now, when you're searching for a picture, make sure that it's a high resolution image. If it shows up ultra small on the screen, that means you didn't look for a large version of a picture to really make it work well. So size it up to be the right size, then hit enter. Then we're going to pull in the picture of ourselves. You can certainly bring in the picture of yourself after you add in some of your other graphic elements. And then we're going to get rid of the background on here. So there's a variety of ways to do it. You already know how to do this, so I'm going to skip forward to the next step. So I used the quick select tool to select around myself. I did refine edge to really make the hair work well, so I painted in the hair area, and then I just click create layer mask. So the next thing we're going to do is work with some graphic elements. Now what I'd like you to do is to make sure that with each graphic element that you bring in, you create a new layer. So you've got a blank layer. That'll just make it a little bit smoother for you as you go on. So like you saw in my example, I created a border. So you can do this using any of these selection tools up here. So in my case, I wanted to create a border right along the edge. So now I've got my selection made. And on this blank layer, I'm going to add in a stroke. Now stroke is different than fill, which we've used before. Stroke stands for adding in a line right along the selection. So you can decide how thick you want it to be. Why don't we go ahead and do 50 pixels to see what that looks like. And then I'm going to go on the inside of my selection. I'm going to select a color based on a color that's in the image already. So why don't we go for a nice gray. I'll click OK. So there's the first part of my border. I'm going to deselect, and then this one I'm actually going to make a little bit see-through, just to kind of add a slightly different look. A lot of times with postcards you might have a border around the edge. Okay, then after that I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to add in a black line like I did earlier. So stroke, color, I'm just going to go pure black. With this one, why don't we just do 25. Still on the inside of the selection. Alright, so there's kind of a nice frame around my image. And then what I did is I actually added in some clouds. So I drew some clouds using some shapes in a selection to make it happen. So I took the elliptical marquee tool on a blank layer that's below my border, and then I started to create a cloud using the selector here. So I'm holding shift to multi-select, and I'm just creating a little bit of a cloud up here. Again, I'm going to fill this with that weird color, but I might select a different color from here. Again, with this blank layer selected, go up to edit and fill, because fill is different than stroke. Stroke is adding a line around what you have selected. Fill is filling it in with whatever color you select. Now I think I might take kind of this weird browny color. Yeah, we'll go with that. So I filled that in. I'm going to deselect it. So I'm adding in some graphic elements here. Then what I'll do, I think for my cloud I wanted to have more of a blurred edge, so I'm going to go up to my filter menu and blur it. Gaussian blur is what I like to use. There, that blurs the edge nicely. And then I can make it see-through a little bit with the opacity on the layer to make it so I can still see the tractor. Besides using a selection to create a graphic element, you could also click on the shape tool here. There's lots of options in terms of basic shapes. The other thing that's kind of interesting is the custom shape tool. And then in the top area here, the custom shape, there's actually lots of options to choose from. If you click on all, click OK. These are all the different built-in shapes into Photoshop that you can use to kind of really make this interesting. Like maybe you add in a crown. Give yourself a crown. Again, the fill is what's on the inside, the stroke is what's on the outside. So if you wanted to change that, you can definitely just select, a color. Let's go for like a nice green one here. Maybe I want to add a stroke in of a nice fuchsia. And I've got myself a pretty neon looking crown. Right? Again, these are shapes and they can be found down here in the tools area to add in different graphics that are something that you're creating in Photoshop rather than finding something online that you edit out and bring into your image. You can certainly do that as well, but I'd like you to play around a little bit more with the graphics that are within Photoshop for this little project. The last thing I'm going to do is work with the type tool, or text tool you can call it, which is right here. Sometimes what I like to do is switch over from essentials to typography, which stands for working with fonts and text. That gives you a little bit better options on this side of the screen to change things. Definitely select a font that you like. There's lots of samples right next to the name for the type of font. Now you can just click down once to start writing. A lot of your text can be changed afterwards in terms of where it's placed and everything like that. So we just click down once, and then this is the color at the top of the screen that it will be, or over here, the best place on Earth. Alright, so here's a real interesting text being used. The great thing about this is if you want to change the size of the text, you can just do it over here in the character area. Just click on the T, and going to the left makes it smaller. Going to the right makes it bigger. So that's a real quick way to change the size of the font. You can drag it around using the Move tool to be in the right spot. And you can definitely click back to the Type tool and add in more text and have an easier time moving it around if it's on a different layer. Now the last thing I wanted to talk about for your text is something called your blending options. So click on blending options in a right click on the text, click on blending options. So here you've got lots of options. All of these things stand for different things that can be changed to the text. I like adding a drop shadow on mine. And if you click on drop shadow, you can adjust what angle the shadow is coming from and how large the shadow is, how see-through it is. All these things can be changed to kind of modify the text. Stroke is adding something around the text. So you could add in like neon pink all around the text. Maybe make that a real large outline around your text if you wanted. Right? Contour and texture and bevel and emboss kind of add more 3D effects to the text. But all these things are different things you can try out to really make your postcard really stand out and be awesome.